That's fair. It's ink. You can use it. It's situational in my mind. I think that the time when I've had Befuddle help me is not as much. However, knowing you're going against potential mirror matches, knowing you're going against Amber Steel, you want to be able to have an answer for Lantern and the other important items, and Befuddle does that. I mean, it puts it back in their hand, and slowing somebody down with that's a whole turn usually that you can stop.
It completely wrecks your curve if you pull it out on turn 1 or 2, and that's a lot bigger deal than you might think at first.
100%.
Looks like we do have a very similar Amber Steel list to the last round, actually. We have the Fire the Cannons instead of the Smash. We have Cinderella, Gentle and Kind. I'm curious if any of these players are friends with one another and kind of establish together that this might be the better strategy going forward.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, and it's also interesting to see that this is Mark here has a very straightforward lineup when it comes to the Amber Steel. He's running 4 of copies of almost everything. And the only ones that he is not is running Cinderella and Fire the Cannons are 2 ofs, but everything else is 4 ofs. That means that we are going to see a consistent flow from him, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 4 Captain Hook, 4 Stitch New Dog, 4 Beast, 4 Surfer, 4 Rocks. Actually, I don't see Rockstar on this list. Oh, wait, no, there it is. Yeah, so 4 Rockstar, 4 Giant Fairy. So, again, like you said, just a lot of consistency here probably.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a turn 1 Stitch and a turn 1 Brooms.
Turn 2 Broom, actually, on this one. Frank went first. Now, Frank putting out the Broom early, unfortunately, means he doesn't get any advantage out of that, not even able to shuffle his deck, which usually you want to see at least a deck shuffle up and out of the Broom.
No, yeah,
seeing it's the only one that can do it.
Grabbing nothing, though he does play the Mickey, so it might not be as big of a concern for him.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I'm wondering if Frank knows that he is on stream right now for his
I think he's getting the lore counter right now. Yeah.
Just want to make sure nobody...
Make sure he's not opening that Credit Karma app.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to see the turn 2 Lantern from Mark. Will we see a turn 3 Stitch Rockstar?
Now, it's a good play. He is not luring, questing with the Stitch, but that's a pretty good sign. He's probably got the Stitch Rockstar in hand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't really hold off on that unless you had that value, or at least you want to make your opponent think that you have that value.
Yeah. Curious to see here. We are going to see the Maleficent draw.
I have a very strong feeling that out of Frank, we are going to see some tried and true Ruby Amethyst gameplay here. If that Maleficent sings Friends on the Other Side, it'll just seem like the most familiar thing in the world.
Yep, absolutely. And again, I'll say it again. Ruby Amethyst, despite the success of Amber Steel Song, has been and still is one of, if not the most consistently winning deck in Lorcana.
Now, I wonder, do you think it's going to change when it comes to this new meta? Do you think that the purple Ruby cards that are coming out are going to enhance what is already there? Or do you think this deck is going to be a thing of the past? Do you think it's going to hold up as is? What are your thoughts?
I think it's definitely going to get a couple pieces that will make it improve, right? But I think at the same time, it is going to become less popular. I think purple, especially with bounce meta, is going to become much more of an aggressive color, and red, purple will still be there, but it's going to be a little bit more in the back burner. So we don't see the turn 3 Stitch Rockstar. We do have a turn 3 Aerial, and he's simply going to pass here. Maybe he has something else in mind. He wanted to play the Aerial turn 3 because he's simply going to play the Stitch turn 4 and then use that last ink to draw a card with, maybe.
It looks like Frank is going to go up 2 lore. His phone, we actually can't see the number on the phone because it is a little bit bright. But 2 lore for Frank right now. And then he is going to put the mirror on the field. And it might be passing after that.
Yeah, it
looks like he's going to pass.
Again, like I said, we sometimes you run into these situations where you have 1 or 2 unused ink in Ruby Amethyst or Amber Steel. It just happens occasionally. A little bit of an awkward start, but the 4 ink plus mirror is going to let Frank draw as many cards as he needs. I don't know if we're stopping here for a specific reason.
Now, are we putting the mirror on the field too early, do you think? Do you think that maybe holding off, since we can't use it, we had wasted ink, maybe we had another play that we could have gotten more value out of our ink on that turn?
I think it's going to definitely depend what's in Frank's hand, but I do think it's a little bit risky if he has other options with the prominence of Beast in Steel.
Do you think maybe he's playing it because he doesn't have those options and he's like, I gotta figure it out. I gotta get through this deck somehow.
I think that's a very good possibility. I think, yeah, we see the turn 4 Stitch Rockstar. Again, I think he's just going to use the Lantern or not the lantern, the extra ink there to, do exactly that, draw a card. And that's probably why he played the aerial first.
Got it.
Gonna sing Whole New World.
Is he? Oh, so he doesn't actually draw the card on the stitch.
And then we see it looks like a Maui, a dragon, and a Be Prepared discard from Frank.
He had a whole curve just completely taken out.
Unfortunate to lose those cards, but I think Frank is probably thanking Mark right now.
Oh, it looks like he got most of them back, and then an Elsa. I don't think that he is upset with that Whole New World at all.
I see a double Pongo in there too, which can race Amber Steel. So this is officially a very interesting game, folks.
Yeah, I think that 100%. We knew it was going to be when we started, but now it's not going to be this landslide one direction or another. Now we have a battle. Now we can see both decks really kind of have a chance to do what they want to do. Because Amber Steel right now, it's doing it. It's singing songs. It's putting stuff on the board. Now it's time for Ruby Amethyst. What play do you have? Let's see what you got.
No, absolutely. And without the beast in hand, Mark does not have the beast in hand. That mirror is going to start putting in work if at any point Frank starts to stall. So I'm actually thinking that Frank is in a pretty comfortable spot here, but it's still pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, Frank is definitely committing to the board state and really trying to have control moving forward because he had other plays in his hand that could have dealt with some of the stuff, but he's choosing now. I don't know if he's developing it enough to take Be Prepared off the table, but it kind of looks like he's choosing to have a board instead of that.
We're going to play the Queen, so he has plenty of draw options. Like you said, he has things that can sing Friends on the Other Side. So, again, going to be really curious here to see what options Mark decides to take.
Another lantern coming out of Mark. And he's going to go ahead and turn sideways.
Going to see, again, these little drops going wide is a good option for him before he has to worry about Be Prepared. He's just going to draw a bunch off of Stitch Rockstar. I see a Surfer Stitch and a Big Tink in hand, a Cinderella playing that aerial.
Oh man, he has got a board going right now, man. He's got a lot of options out of those double aerials, and I think
again, I think that might be why we're seeing more.
No hit though.
Yeah, gonna whiff on that. I think that's why we're seeing more singers with things like Cinderella more frequently. Is I think they want. The thought process is probably something like, I need to play more singers because I want to max out 4 copies of Whole New World for Grab Your Sword and just go full blast on the songs, which because they're uninkable can be a little bit more risky without singers to help you play them for free.
And I think that mitigates the risk, right? Because in your turn 3, turn 4, you're using that uninkable card versus not being able to use it for 5 turns. Yep. Is way harder.
Again, going back to our conversation earlier about Hades, again, uninkables in Amber Steel are really scary, right? Because it's very common to end up in top deck mode and simply burning out that way.
And now we see the exact opposite of the earlier because we don't have the Hades here now, so we get to kind of see, like, would a Hades have maybe helped us out? But right now, I mean, really looking strong as is.
Yeah. Now, it looks like Frank is playing 4 copies of Sergeant Tibbs. Are you Team Sergeant Tibbs or are you Team Archimedes here?
I think I'm Team Sergeant Tibbs, and this is why. I saw someone talk about this a little while, so it's not my own point, so I'm not going to steal it. But I don't know who said it, so it's just up in the air. But Sergeant Tibbs is only played in this deck. Archimedes is played in other decks, so I would choose Archimedes. Did I say Tibbs at first?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Archimedes. No, so because Archimedes has options, you don't know where you're going with Archimedes. You only see Sergeant Tibbs in this deck.
So
period.
if you ink a Sergeant Tibbs or something, you're giving away more information. 100%. It's a very minor thing, but I think that's a very good argument to make why you would play one over the other. Yeah. Give away as little information as possible.
Because I think sometimes that can make a big difference. How you choose in those first starting hands, that's a big change to the game.
We are seeing a very almost like mutually assured destruction deterrent situation here with huge board presences on both sides, but no real combat or removal happening here. But that just reeks to me of prime for a Be Prepared.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's going to have to be prepared at this point. The board's getting out of control on the other side. And if he doesn't really, honestly, Mark is kind of baiting him into the Be Prepared at this point. Like, you're going to let me have 6 characters on the board right now?
Yeah, and he's drawing a ton of cards off those Stitches. He drew 2 cards off those Captain Hooks. Simply going to quest with that Ariel and Stitch New Dog to go to 2 lore here.
It looks like he doesn't have the Be Prepared. If I would guess, he's going to shuffle it. Yep, there it is. Right back into the deck.
Make sure that card is the right side. And then, that's going to bring all 4 copies of Be Prepared back into the deck, making it even easier to draw. I think that's going to be very relevant in this matchup, so I think that is a good choice.
How do you feel about shuffling the deck? Do you think that, like, I'm superstitious. I feel like I shuffle away the best cards in the game right there in that moment, and then I should
just gone forever?
Yeah, they're just gone. I'll never see them again.
I don't know. I've actually had some pretty good luck with brooms. I'm a big supporter of brooms. It also completely destroys Emerald Steel Mill. It just helps you out in so many ways. Being able to, again, the only other card I can really think of right now is Hades. Pulling things out of the discard pile is so good. Again, maybe a part of your world, but it's rare, so it's a good ability.
I ran Part of Your World for a little bit with the Aerials because I figured the Aerials, they need another song target, but I switched it out for Hakuna Matata just because Uninkable, and Hades is the play. If you're going to play that, I feel like Hades is just better to have a body.
Absolutely. So it looks like he did trade there, tapping down the Maleficent, getting rid of his own broom, but clearing up a little bit more space on the board. He does have, Mark still has 3 singers in play at the moment. He has the 2 Aerials plus the Stitch, which can sing pretty much anything in his deck. So, again,
Frank choosing to go for resources again.
Really, honestly, I don't hate this in Ruby Amethyst, right? You're okay to go slow a little bit. You're just countering here and there to keep things in check, but it's going to get to the point where he has to play Be Prepared soon.
And I think that's why I'm not the best player when it comes to playing that deck, is because I just don't have the patience to be as slow and methodical. But he's definitely playing it the way it's supposed to be played. That's the play right there. Get your hand back up in this moment. He drove 2 cards. I think he only played 1 and ink, so he replenished his hand.
Yep.
So I think that being able to stay above your opponent in cards is important. However, Mark is doing a phenomenal job at card control on his side of the board, considering he has a tremendous board presence, 2 lanterns, and on top of that, he's got 5 ink to play with.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a Be Our Guest and a Surfer Stitch amongst others in his hands.
Surfer Stitch coming out. Beautiful play.
Again, a little bit risky with the threat of a Be Prepared next turn. He hasn't played any. He just shuffled 1 back in, and he's at 7 ink next turn.
Yeah, he's definitely committing to not getting wiped right now, but he also has potential to restart and refuel with the amount of characters in his hand.
He drew a big Tink and a Surfer Stitch, so I think he's okay.
He's going to ink the Tink.
Ink the Tink. And the Fire the Cannon's becoming relevant once again, comboing well with that hook. That is 5 damage there. That's
huge. That was really good. That stops his ability to draw for free. That's a really good move. Wow. I love that. I love to see the Fire the Cannons not just being something that's like kind of the one-off thing, but every game it's playing a crucial part, and it's not doing it in the early game usually. It's being saved until way into the mid to late game, and I think that with both of the people, or all 3 of the people that we've seen run Fire the Cannons today, it's only been 2 of copies, and both of them have held that for very good high-value kills.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to turn sideways here, Quest for 5, going to 7 lore for Mark there, and then looks like Frank getting the 7th ink, going to play down that Mickey. Now, that is very relevant with the broom in play.
If he had the stopwatch, or the White Rabbit stopwatch in play right now, that would be just a tremendous combo to be able to use those brooms pretty much infinitely.
Again, though, without any pressure to take out these singers, gonna double in to replay the broom. But again, you're very much at risk for grab your sword right now, right? So
100%.
You have to really think about, what does my opponent have? We know that Mark drew another Surfer Stitch off his 2 cards.
Interesting. He offered his opponent the ability to shuffle his deck right there. I'm not sure why he chose to do it that way.
Yeah, not sure what that was, but
I think if I had to guess, he's playing like I would play, and like, hey, I don't want to shuffle this wrong. You go ahead. Can you shuffle it for me?
Did we see what he took off that broom? I missed it.
He put a Maui back in his deck.
A Maui, okay. Pretty good choice.
Out of what he had in there, Maui, I think, was the strongest choice. And really, I think he's just hoping to shuffle that Be Prepared to the top.
That double stitch. He's probably thinking, Mark's thinking here, he would have played Be Prepared last turn if he has it. But again, with so much, he now has 2 Magic Mirrors in play. With so much card draw, he's still got friends on the other side and Maleficents to deal with. The threat of a Be Prepared is really scary. So I think Mark's thinking, you simply can't take your time against Ruby Amethyst, right? So you're just going to go super aggressive. You're questing for 7 this turn.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I mean, you're going to go to 14. You're instantly threatening lethal next turn. You say, have be prepared.
Yeah,
you know?
he's got. I mean, really, the only chance that he has of coming back is to be prepared at this point. There's too much really beefy stuff on the board.
I think the only other option maybe is
because
Dragonfire. Yeah, I don't know. This is tough. You kind of need. Yeah, I think you're right. You need it
with the amount of the ink on. He only has 7 ink right now. I mean, that's not much, to deal with all of that going on right now, right? He has to have some big answer, and if he doesn't top deck this, be prepared. It's going to be rough. I mean, I'm curious to see where his thought process is at. But even if he taps the mirror for the card draw, now he can't do the be prepared. So it's like this.
So, interesting thing there that just happened. We did have somebody. He played grab your sword, but then he didn't take the broom back to his hand. I'm not sure if that was on. He has the Mickey in play. I'm not sure if that was on purpose.
I think the broom Mickey interaction might only trigger on challenged removal.
Okay. Yep. I think you're actually right.
So I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
that
not
makes
sure,
sense. Why Mark read his card. Okay. So that makes sense now.
Then that was a really big play then to get the broom out of that way, because I mean otherwise that broom is
okay. So we do see Elsa. So
that's a good one.
That is a good card.
That slows the momentum down a ton. So now he's only at 3 additional lore, and it looks like he took out the aerial with the Mickey. So
now he
fair
has
enough
no
trade
singers.
when he doesn't have that broom on the board anymore. The Mickey's not really needed.
Absolutely, and then again, now that Surfer Stitch is his only singer, he basically choose either sing a song with Surfer Stitch, or don't sing anything, or use your ink. So. Again, we seem to count out Ruby Amethyst a little early, but again, it's one of those decks where it just takes such a long time to set up, but once it's there, it is strong.
It's definitely, I mean, looking at what's in his hand, though, the Maleficent, he's got a Maleficent Dragon, and he's got another Elsa. He's got the next 2 turns locked down.
Yeah,
like,
and then
the ability to freeze 2 of your characters, and then they just can't do anything for an entire cycle. Oh, it's so powerful, and he has the ability, if he chooses to shift that Elsa onto the Elsa for a cheaper cost, so he could still do that and then some on this next turn, which is that is really big. Frank, maybe Be Prepared wasn't the only answer.
I think Maleficent Dragon here is actually a phenomenal play.
For sure.
Yeah, just one card, one Elsa, and then things are swinging back in a pretty close match here. You never know.
Okay, he chose to discard that Whole New World. If he would have played the Whole New World, it would have taken out all those threats in Frank's hand.
Yeah.
That would have been crazy. He just completely threw away a 50 caliber bullet that was locked and loaded.
The unfortunate part is you don't know what's in your opponent's hand, and it never feels good to Whole New World while behind against Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's the thought process. His hand's decent. He has a good board presence. No need to shake things up. But you're absolutely right. If he was omnipotent and knew that there were that many threats in Frank's hand, that would have been epic to see.
And that's, when it comes to Floodborn next season, there is a card that allows you to do exactly that and see your opponent's hand. And I think that kind of stuff is going to make Whole New World really viable again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, prepare for your opponent to ask you how many cards you have in your hand a lot next set. So
exactly.
Going to draw a card off the magic and double. That's the thing. Those magic mirrors, that is...
And that's game.
That is
He's
game.
hoping for a good pull. Now, I'm really surprised that he pulled that early, but with this deck being such a long, drawn-out play, sometimes that match itself took about almost 20 minutes, and he wants to make sure that he gets all the way through all 3 matches. So he probably just wants to make sure he has time going forward to do the rest of the matches to give himself a fair shake.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it looked like there might have been a little bit of a comeback there for Frank. But Mark did pull out the win there at the end. Just simply too much lore on board, If you don't have the Be Prepared there, Maleficent Dragon can only take out one thing.
And I really did think that it was going to be Frank was going to come back right there, but it just goes to show that it was a lot to deal with early on. I mean, before 7, he already had a fully developed board, and if you don't have Be Prepared to answer that at 7. That's really the reset button you need to hit every single time on Ruby Amethyst in order to take the momentum and control the game again.
Absolutely. And Unfortunately, you end up throwing a lot of Be Prepareds back in the beginning. It's just not a good card in the early game, but it's just so necessary towards the end for this deck to come back. But if you can get off those 1 or 2 Be Prepareds you need, it's unbeatable at that point.
So, are you a fan of on the mulligan opening hand? Are you throwing back Be Prepared? Or are you keeping it? What is?
I am 100% throwing it back. I do not like, with very limited exceptions, I do not like keeping Uninkables in my opening hand. Exceptions I can think of is like maybe I keep a Whole New World or Fire the Cannons in certain situations, but for the most part, if it's uninkable, I'm most likely throwing it back.
I think I would have to agree. I think the only one that I say maybe is a keep, if I have a Singer in my hand and then I have Whole New World in my hand, I'm keeping them.
Yeah.
That's my turn 3 right there.
Yeah, when I'm playing Amber Steel and I have Aerial in hand, I'm keeping the Whole New World.
100%.
But I'm throwing back the Grab Your Sword. I'm throwing back...
There's nothing worse than when you get stuck with like 2-3 Grab Your Swords on opening hand and you're just like, oh no, I should have just thrown it away.
It's worse when you're basically forced to Whole New World and just discard them. That's just very painful.
Yeah. You never want a Whole New World. That just, you feel like you're losing double the value on there, and it sucks. It's really just it can kill your momentum on the deck. It can also completely shift any chance you have in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it looks like we got a big Aladdin, a couple of removal spells here for Frank. Curious to see what he throws back. Friends on the other side, that's good. Brooms. What do you think of Brooms in the early game? I usually will throw those back as well, but they are a 2-drop.
I'm going to be honest. I am not Team Broom. I don't see the value in the Broom as much, and I think that for me, I think that there's better uses. I actually really liked earlier we saw out of I believe it was Jerry's deck. Mm-hmm. He didn't have the Brooms. He didn't run that. I really like the way that deck runs and operates. I think that the Brooms are a little bit of a clunky turn 2 for this deck, and so it doesn't give me as much value. I think that they're way more valuable in the late game.
Do you think there's value though in if you find them in the late game, the ability to throw back that 5th Dragonfire, that 5th Be Prepared, if you're facing the wheel deck, never milling yourself, basically forcing them to go aggro in the last moments of the game, does that outweigh the sometimes useless nature of the Brooms, though? You said you're not Team Broom. You said.
I'm really not Team Broom. I see its value. I see that it has potential. I just don't. For me, it doesn't come into play enough. However, the 5th Be Prepared, the 5th Dragonfire late game where you know you're going to draw it soon, that is pretty big. So
now we're about to see something interesting. So he did ink the Broom, going for the Gaston, but I see the Befuddle in his hand, and I was curious to see if he was going to befuddle that Stitch back there, because it really has much more of a drastic impact on your curve than you would think playing Befuddle early.
I think I would rather let him have a moment with the Stitch, so that way I can either guest on him and get just take care of it, or wait on the Befuddle, just because he didn't have, if he would have had the Lantern, I'd rather Befuddle the Lantern in that moment, because I think that it's harder for him to get it back on the board. So I think in those kinds of situations, I wait and hold it.
True, and you do want to get rid of the Summoning Sickness on that Gaston. So I see the argument for both sides. Mm-hmm. Playing the Magic Mirror here on turn 2, simply going to pass.
Yeah, not able to do much on that turn, but able to set himself up. Again, the early mirror is seeing a lot of play. I think it's kind of interesting to see how in real life tournaments and how they play out versus on ladder and on Pixelborn. How usually you're seeing that Magic Mirror turn 6 every time, and out here you're seeing it almost consistently turn 2-3.
All right.
Able to play a couple. He's going to play 4 to
just
draw the card. Okay.
Hey, it's a perfectly viable play when you have nothing else to play on 4 ink.
100%. And then we got at least a Grab Your Swords in Mark's hand over there.
I see a grab. Yeah, I was going to say I see a Rockstar Stitch, but he's not going to shift into it. Interesting choice here.
Yeah.
Simply playing the Cinderella, probably to get a Singer for that Grab Your Sword or something similar.
I don't know how I feel about that, not using the Rockstar Stitch. I'm curious how that shakes out.
Now, that might be a second Rockstar Stitch I'm seeing in his hand, so maybe he's thinking he'll play it next turn. He wants the Singer out available for whatever his opponent's plays. I think he just drew the second Grab Your Sword.
Is that what so I think that if he has another Rockstar Stitch in hand, then that makes a lot more sense, and that would definitely have been the play, so that makes sense. I do think I see that right there. on the end.
Yeah, he does have that, and he has the 2 grab your swords, and I think he also might have a beast in hand. So that might be interesting to play. Get rid of that magic mirror.
I would definitely. I think I go for the magic mirror, and hold off on the stitch.
I think I might actually as well. That card advantage is enormous, especially now that he has queen out.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to stop. You can't draw 2 cards.
Yeah, you don't want your opponent drawing 2 cards every turn. That's not good. But again, if you put out the beast, you're not really threatening anything either. The Rockstar Stitch is much more of a threat. You're threatening to draw cards. You can maybe play out a Simba Protective Cub, have Gaston attack into that.
The problem I see with putting out the Stitch now is if he uses it now, Gaston has that's 4 damage on Stitch. You really want to get Gaston out early, I think. And I think the trade, if you could trade Beast to get rid of the mirror and then have Gaston and Beast trade, I feel like that's pretty high value for Beast, and I think that would be what I would have chosen to do, because now it almost locks him into not using Stitch Rockstar because he doesn't get great value out of him.
The difference is here he could sing Swords with Cinderella, and that would instantly get rid of that Gaston for him.
That is very true.
And then Queen could not attack in without trading.
That is a good point. Yeah, I did forget about the double grab your swords in his hand. So with the double grab your swords, and that does make for a good use. If he does get rid of the Gaston, if he doesn't get rid of Gaston, he just kind of stalls himself out.
Choosing not to use it, though, simply passing.
Wonder why.
He has the Be Prepared in hand. Again, I think I would probably quest here with Stitch Rockstar and sing Grab Your Sword with Cinderella. I think it's just you gotta take advantage of the cards that you have in play. With threat of something like a Be Prepared or a Dragonfire at any moment. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
That's 100% why I think
he's kind of wasted it.
Yeah, you just gotta take your advantages. Like, you cannot take your time. You cannot take the passive route with Ruby Amethyst, because if you give it time, it's just going to get rid of all the things you spent all that time playing.
100%. And that's when it comes down to how many times these players have not only played their own deck, but how many times has this player played the opposing deck? You know what I mean? If you have never played against which would be very surprising, but if you've never played against a Ruby Amethyst deck and you're playing in this tournament and this is your first time, that's a crazy matchup. Yep. I remember the first time I had no idea what was coming.
Absolutely.
I was at 18 lore, and then all of a sudden I'm losing. What's happening? So it's definitely one of those decks you got to kind of play differently around.
Absolutely. So I do see a whole new world in Mark's hand, so I'm curious if he's going to play that because, again, Frank has a lot of good cards in hand right now.
Yeah, that would be really, really nice.
He does. Yeah, he gets rid of the...
That is huge. That's really good.
Aladdin, Be Prepared, Dragonfire.
Just pulled a Dragonfire.
Oh, going to drop a card there.
Just throwing it away. Didn't like that card.
We do have friends on the other side in hand now, too.
Is that 2 Surfer Stitches that he pulled, Mark? That is a great pull, especially at the later end of the tail end of the game.
Yeah, going to get the aerial here.
Now, playing the aerial there, I'm hoping he didn't have any songs in his hand that he pulled, because you got to kind of gauge it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you just pulled 2 songs and then you play aerial, the odds of you hitting that next song a little bit lower, maybe stagger out the aerial a little bit since you just had the card draw. But I think he kind of didn't have much else ink to do, so he's just really it looks like he's milling for something. I'm just not sure exactly what he's looking for. He did get rid of, 2 Grab Your Swords with that whole new world, which... I gonna be honest, I can't bring myself to do that when I play it. I have to play on at least one of those Grab Your Swords. What about you?
I think if I was in the seat, I would play the Grab Your Sword, but I think it actually was the right call to play the whole new world.
Yeah.
If you notice here, he's going to have Gaston attack into that Cinderella and not kill, which means he has to attack in with the Queen if he wants to remove that Cinderella. Otherwise, you are now sitting with 4 damage on the Cinderella, threatening to Rapunzel away all that damage, draw a bunch of cards. That's not necessarily super comfortable. You already have multiple removal spells like Dragonfire and Be Prepared in your opponent's discard pile. So it doesn't feel great to have to use the one Dragonfire you have in hand on a card like Rapunzel when you know things like Surfer Stitch and Rockstar Stitch are right around the corner.
Yeah, 100%.
Gonna see a Pocket Watch here.
And he's gonna play it, which is good. That's another great card for this deck.
Draw on this. So the Gaston plus Maleficent from Pocket Watch, maybe.
Nice.
Yep, he is going to do exactly that.
Gonna draw
again,
a card
that shows the value of Cinderella, though. Having to 2-for-1 with Pocket Watch
Yep.
just to get rid of her.
100%. If you don't have a rush answer in the deck, I mean, at least you have something with the pocket watch. You didn't have to use the queen, so he was able to get another card draw out of that, which is good because he's able to have almost full hand again. But you definitely don't get that out of Ariel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gaston in an instant, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a Simba there, but that's still 2 for 2. It's not as good. The Cinderella is just so powerful.
Frank's hand is going to be very relevant here because now that Surfer Stitch coming out, and it looks like there's a couple other threats in Mark's hand. He has another Surfer Stitch, he has a Beast, and a Whole New World, and an Aerial. Do we have? It looks like a Be Prepared is in Frank's
He's got
hand.
a Whole New World again? That is crazy.
Oh,
he had such a good hand.
my God. That was very smart, though. He just threw away more Be Prepareds from Frank. Most of Frank's Be Prepares are now in his discard pile, and he hasn't played a single one.
I cannot believe that play. I just would never have done that, and that might be one of the better plays because he got rid of so many threats he didn't even know about. But 2, I think what I'm not thinking about is how much card draw is already coming out of Frank. He's already drawn an extra 10 to 12 cards over Mark, and now Mark has already cycled an extra 14 cards from Frank. He might be trying to get him to deck out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're now at the 19-minute mark here, below 20 minutes, and so Frank has to be feeling the pressure to have to somehow win 2 games in 19 minutes. This game isn't necessarily going 100% how he would want it to, though. That is a monster hand that I'm looking at. 2 Elsas, a Maui. Looks like a Shield of Virtue there. That is not going to be fun for Mark to deal with.
That's definitely an Elsa coming out. I got a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to assume.
It's got to be, right? I mean,
maybe Elsa attack Queen into the Aerial. I think that might be the play.
Yeah.
Yep. Tap those down. Attack Queen into the Aerial. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, that was the best way to get rid of most of the threats at one time, and at least stall out the hand that Mark has right now. Really good hand coming from Frank. So, I mean, he definitely has tools in his arsenal to be able to take him out.
Yeah, I think he has a second Elsa in there, at least one Dragonfire. So, Mark is now feeling the pressure to somehow come up with a win. We do see a Rockstar Stitch and a couple Be Our Guests, but generally speaking, it's going to be pretty interesting. Okay, Simba.
Only 1 lore on the board for Mark, so it's not like we are right around the corner from getting there. We have a long road to go to get to the top of that mountain. So definitely a lot of game left still in this second round.
Absolutely, and King Simba is going to definitely be a factor here because he's so good when you have Rockstar Stitch out, right? You draw 2 cards from playing a 1-drop. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
But I don't know if drawing all these cards off Rockstar Stitch is going to be enough with knowing what Frank just has waiting for Mark in his hand.
Against almost any other deck, it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And against Ruby Amethyst, it got a long way to go.
Like, I'm seeing Pongos and stuff in Frank's hand. A Be Prepared here would just be absolutely nasty.
A Be Prepared, really, again, and he's got to have them, right? I mean, I know he's gotten rid of it. What, 2 in his Whole New Worlds? He's gotten rid of how many Be Prepareds?
Yeah, I mean, 2 or 3 are in his discard, and again, he hasn't played a single one.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
Maleficent's getting rid of Rockstar Stitch.
It looks like. Now, would you take out Rockstar in that situation, or would you take out Surfer with the bigger butt?
Now, I see the argument for taking out Rockstar, though, because you're basically throwing away your opponent's ability to draw cards, right?
Yeah.
And then Surfer Stitch is a big boy, but like you just draw another Dragonfire or Dragon,
and to be
and
fair, Maleficent is 7. She's got 7
Yep.
attacks, so I guess that makes sense. That he's not as threatening when she's got such a big attack power. Oh, plus with the Maui in hand, I mean. He's got a lot of answers.
Yeah, no,
sure.
Yeah, Rockstar was definitely the right choice there. I'm trying to think of ways that Mark could turn this around somehow. But once Ruby Amethyst gets to this point where they have an abundance of dragons and an abundance of Elsas and an abundance of Aladdins, it's really hard.
It's almost like if he wouldn't have Whole New Worlded, we'd be in a better spot. You know, it's kind of...
Yeah. Again, it's a double-edged sword. But again, would we be, though? Because he had 2 be prepared in hand.
That's...
So
that's
it's like...
true. Yeah, no, it could go
You never know.
way. Got rid of the queen with that big tink. That's nice. It's a good start. It looks like he's going to go ahead and swing... Surfer Stitch into Maleficent. No. Okay.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I was gonna say he was not exhausted.
That's why
so,
I was confused. I was like, I don't think you're supposed to do that, but no, he just put the 1 damage counter on from the Tinkerbell, and he used Surfer Stitch to take out Elsa, which is definitely the play there. Most likely going to lose his Surfer Stitch against that Maleficent, but I think that's a good trade, and I think that's worth it. For
absolutely.
Sure.
And again, notice how long this game is taking. We are down to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Frank, I don't see him winning 2 games here. He has to be just basically playing for the draw, though. We did see Ruby Amethyst win in 7 minutes,
that's
so who
very
knows?
true. And if we get another repeat, we'll see what happens. It doesn't look like either player is really willing or wanting to play this round with any kind of haste, though. We're taking a lot of time, really kind of thinking about it. I thought it'd be very methodical. So I think Mark is really hoping that this is the last one, because if it comes down to that third one, it's going to be tough. And another Elsa.
Nice.
Going to go ahead and freeze up the 2 lore chasers on his team. So Big Tink and the Surfer Stitch going to hold off.
I actually think he tapped down the Simba because he's going to try to kill the Surfer Stitch here, maybe. Or no, he tapped down the Surfer Stitch and the Simba, killed the Tink.
I didn't see him choose the Simba. Okay, so that is even better. So he's able to take out both those and able to have the Elsa on the field still.
And he takes out the Surfer Stitch, too.
Yeah, and now he's got a Shield of Virtue on. So not able to play the Shield of Virtue this turn, which would have been super clutch to protect that Elsa.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, Mark has 0 threats on board right now.
And then I was going to say that Simba could almost take him out, but then I forgot Simba's frozen. Simba can't do anything. So it's just a great play from Frank. It's going to be tough, man, because Frank is kind of on the offensive. Oh, fire the cannons, taking out Elsa. What a shot.
Continually being proven wrong for other fans is not a good choice.
I tell you.
But again, like, yes, we have some kind of hand here for Mark. We have decent cards in hand. Beast's going to be able to take care of that Magic Mirror or that Shield of Virtue. But you have to play something else and hope he doesn't have removal for those next turn. You simply don't have enough ink to play something and Surfer Stitch. So, I don't know, man. I think this is going to be really hard for Mark to come back from.
Okay, so he's able to stop.
Taking out the Pocket Watch. Probably the last item I would have picked. But
I think the reason he's choosing to take that one out is because he's really wanting to make sure that he doesn't, whatever he sets up here doesn't get instant taken out. And I don't think he's seeing any like big challenges from things like Rafikas or anything. So he's assuming that they're not in the deck at this point, which he would be correct. There is no Rafikis. The only rush characters is the Maui. So he's kind of really just not wanting something other than Maui to have to deal with.
Unfortunately, he had exactly Maui to have to deal with. But agreed that that is probably what he was hoping for, so he could draw those 2 cards off Surfer Stitch, but he again has the Maui and is unfortunately able to simply take care of that Simba, and we're right back to the same problem that we had last turn. And now we have also a Mickey Mouse in play, so Brooms might be coming to bring some shenanigans at any moment.
And that's going to prevent the deck out as long as he has a Broom to kind of keep the thing going. And I think that it might come down to that potentially with him for this match because of how, I mean, he's got to be low on cards. That discard is definitely looking taller than the actual deck right now.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so it looks like Maui, you could trade the Beast into the Maui, but again, you're not really dealing with the core threat, which is all the cards that Frank is going to continue to play every turn, especially with the card advantage given to him by his Magic Mirror, just drawing every turn. Usually Ruby Amethyst plays more than 60 cards to deal with that deck out problem, especially if you're playing Brooms. So, again, I don't think that Mark can really rely on decking out Frank here.
Both players are going to have to really turn on the gas. It's only 11 minutes left. If Mark doesn't in this game now, it's going to be a draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy how long this game 2 has become.
It's been a very long game.
Gonna trade into the Maui. Again, I don't think that's the wrong play. I think that's actually probably correct. It just doesn't feel very good.
No, definitely not. Especially when you're just like, you gotta start getting some lore on the board, and start getting that number higher. With the time frame remaining, I mean, this might be the last game. You know what I mean? Because we easily could have another 10 minutes of this game left with the way that both players are able to just every turn have an answer for the other.
Just an insane amount of ink on Frank's side of the board right now.
I've completely lost count.
Another Elsa.
Oh my goodness.
This is peak Ruby Amethyst control right here.
For real. He is really coming back, and that's gonna, I mean, really, if he comes back, it does force that draw pretty much, unless he can turbo.
Yeah.
like Jerry did.
I just don't see that happening here personally, but we have been wrong already on this stream, so
I reserve the right to be further wrong.
Exactly. But again, I don't know what Mark has in hand. He can't seem to establish 2 characters on board to draw Surfer Stitch. He's going to play the aerial.
Okay.
God, look at the size of his deck.
It's so small.
Mark might be the one who has to worry about decking out, actually.
Yeah.
Just going to whiff.
At this point, I mean, he didn't really seem to put too much thought into what was going in what order at the bottom of the deck, and I mean, he kind of might need to have looked at that.
Finally has enough ink to get that Surfer Stitch out after playing the aerial. Simply going to draw an aerial and a Simba Protective Cub. I don't think that's enough here. I mean, you're facing down an Elsa. You know more Maleficent dragons are going to be coming out any moment. Is that a Be Prepared? Frank just drew the Be Prepared, so that will be interesting to see.
At that point, is it worth playing?
No, I don't know if it is, because honestly, at this point, you might want to start questing with your Elsa, Shield of Virtue it up so that it doesn't get damaged, and that is a really dangerous combo, and you're going to put a clock on your opponent right away.
If I'm Mark at this point, I'm probably tempted to scoop and just try to get as much of the next game as possible and just hope for the best, because he's got so many answers, and you're coming up very short and such a far amount of way to go. I just don't know if it's worth it to try to make this game happen.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's me, ending too early on my, maybe I should hold it out, but I don't see it going any other way. He's just commanding the board right
Especially with Magic Mirror out to continually refill your hand. Ruby Amethyst with this much ink is going to have a response to almost anything that you play.
100%.
So, we just saw him deal with Big Tink with Maui, and he can still quest with Elsa, and then he's going to just simply Shield of Virtue it up, like I was saying, and now our opponent is on a clock.
Yep, and that's another 3 lore for Frank, so we're going to put himself at 5 lore. It's looking pretty good for Frank. It's looking not so great over there for old Mark. He's gotta make an answer, but fast, because I keep saying it, but 7.5 minutes left. That's just so rough.
The fact that this game has been well over 20, almost 30 minutes, and we are at 2 versus 5 lore is kind of crazy. Just constantly taking down each other's board states, creating this really intense strategic game. The second Surfer Stitch going to grab him 2 more cards, but again, you're dealing down with a Maui and Elsa, Shield of Virtue. He's going to quest for at least 3 lore every single turn.
Going to take out the Maui with the aerial.
I mean, I love Surfer Stitch as much as the next guy, but I don't know if you really kind of need the Beast here to deal with that Shield of Virtue for sure.
100%. Because that's 3 unanswered lore every time. I mean,
did he get it? He might have gotten it. Yes, he did.
Oh, that's big. He's definitely going to use it. Well, I mean, that's either way, that's rough.
Gonna have to wait until next turn.
Yeah, that Beast Mirror, I mean, the Beast breaking one of those things, the Magic Mirror is such an important card to get rid of, but the Shield of Virtue, you have to focus on that at this point. You can't let it keep doing what it's doing.
You're questing for 6 every turn now. Readying that Elsa, preventing anything from happening there. Looks like Stitch did quest there, so he's going to be at 4 lore, but I don't think that's enough, man.
No.
Oh, wait, no. Did he attack the Maui there? He might have attacked the Maui.
The Maui got taken out by the aerial, so I believe he did get
he
the
did.
lore
Yeah, he
there,
did quest.
So it's 4 or 5 currently.
So,
Dragonfire.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
Not what you want to see.
No. So Mark at 4 lore, Frank at 5. We definitely not looking pretty over there on the amber side of the board.
Again, doing the quest combo with Shield of Virtue here, going to 8 lore for Frank. Do you quest here with the Mickey Sorcerer?
100%. I mean, you throw down at this point.
I think you just turn sideways. Okay, so he's going to quest with that. Go to 9 now for Frank. 9 lore for Frank, and then 4 for Mark.
I would have quested 2 with Mickey right there. I don't see any reason why not to at this point.
I just don't see how you overcome this Shield of Virtue combo.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
One more character with any kind of decent lore, and you're on a 2-turn clock.
Is Mickey? What's Mickey's attack at? Is it by chance 3? I feel like if it might be.
Yeah, Mickey's a 3/4.
I think that's it. Just made more sense to take out Mickey in that sense. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I think that's why he didn't quest the Mickey, because he didn't want to give him an extra card draw. So even at the late game when he clearly has the most, clearly has a big advantage going into it right now, he's still playing super careful and super methodic. And clearly with 4 minutes left, we won't be getting a third game. So it looks like this is probably going to end in a draw unless Mark has some hidden Hail Mary card that I don't see him having.
That Beast getting rid of that shield is a good start.
That is good. Oh, an answer right back every time. You don't get a chance to breathe against Ruby Amethyst.
Nope, you don't. And
3 more lore for Frank, putting him up at 12, and now he's got the Maleficent Dragon on the field.
He is 1 lore shy of threatening lethal, unfortunately, here. Okay. Gonna see, yeah, man. I don't know what you do here if you're Mark. Your deck, it looks like he has maybe 10 cards left in his deck, too.
Yeah, the shadow is getting smaller and smaller on the playing field from that deck. Yeah, I just don't see what answers that you have. You don't have any removal to get rid of anything, and I think that right now you're going to have, if you don't have a double grab your swords, then you're pretty out of luck.
Yeah. And remember, he threw away those 2 grab your swords early this game.
Yep.
That seems like forever ago, but that was this game.
Yep.
So
84 years ago.
Yeah. And the be prepared's on Frank's side too. Like most of the removal just got done for by those early whole new worlds this game. So
yeah.
God, it's gonna be really interesting to see if Mark has anything, but I just don't see what he could possibly do here.
Now, there was a little bit of delay in the beginning of this match for setup, so they do actually have a 2-minute extension. So we're about to hit the 5-minute remaining mark on this. Still going to be such a tight race. Looks like he's going to double trade to get rid of the Elsa, and going to use a good amount of ink, bringing out the Stitch Rockstar.
Again, I think if you're Mark here, you just have to start putting quest threats on the board, and then basically hope Frank has nothing in hand, and that you can eventually just quest for a couple turns and win that way. I mean, just go wide at this point, you know?
Yeah, with Frank being at 12 lore, I mean, it's definitely it's close, but there's still a chance for Mark. I mean, there's still hope. He's doing some just great, just ability to stay in it when it's so. Oh, yeah, that's less than 10 cards in his deck right there. He just counted them out because he knows it's coming.
And that magic mirror is putting in work.
Yeah, that magic mirror has stayed on the field since it came out on turn 2.
Yep. Yep. And Beast has removed a couple items, but it's unfortunately things like Shield of Virtue, more that Pocket Watch, more pertinent threats. But that card advantage just lets you constantly have answers to anything. And I think there is at least 1 Be Prepared left in Frank's deck. So that could also come out. Ooh, that Pongo is not what you want to see. That Evasive is really, really useful here.
Another reason why Smash is so key and so helpful is because that'll take care of a Pongo, but a Fire the Cannon's not strong enough.
Yep. Now I'm curious to know how many cards Frank has. So gonna go to 16 for Frank. That Pongo is not a fun card to see.
Yeah, he's not at lethal with Pongo and Maleficent, so if they take out both those threats on board, he'll be able to have one more turn. But man, oh man, it's not looking good.
Does he have another character to play in this River of Ink to confirm lethal? That's the question.
I think he went ahead and passed over to Mark right now, so it's on Mark's turn. So we'll see what he does. And yeah, he has half of his deck in his Inkwell at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 or 14 ink. That's a lot.
It's like a quarter of your deck right there.
Let's see what Mark has left. With only 2.5 minutes left in this third round, sorry.
Yes, gonna be our guest for Big Tinkerbell. Again, I think at this point,
it's unfortunate that we don't have unlimited time to be able to let him duke it out for longer and longer. But it's kind of the part of your strategy is, hey, can I win? But can I win in a reasonable amount of time to be able to have enough, chances to, if I don't win them both back to back. I think a lot of these Ruby Amethyst decks are just used to winning the 2 games and then that's it. And same for Amber Steel. And so when they go against each other, they're wanting the same thing. It's really tough.
Yeah, and again, we're seeing another player who's punished for not playing Smash, right?
Yep.
He has the 2 Fire the Cannons and the 4 Grab Your Sword, and I think that's about it for straight removal in Mark's deck. I think he might just not have anything left, And if that's the case, this Pongo's just going to overrun him.
It looks like Frank is probably going to win this game, but I don't think he's too stoked to go into this next one knowing it's immediately going to be a draw with the amount of time left. I think that part of him wishes Mark would have conceded a little early on this one, but to be fair, Mark isn't putting in an absolute, almost perfect counter to everything he's been doing. If I was in Mark's shoes, I wouldn't want to give up either.
The only thing I can think is Mark is playing here to mill Frank, right?
Yeah.
He, for all we know, Frank could also very well be very low on cards.
Yeah.
He's been drawing a lot off his magic mirrors. He also had to do those multiple whole new worlds. So it might just be a race to the bottom of their decks at this point.
Yeah.
But again, that Pongo is going to put 2 lore on the field every turn. That Maleficent's going to bring him to 19. And we got another Maleficent Dragon, man.
Mark cannot catch a break. He really can't. There's just too many answers. With a mountain of ink, there's just so many options. Gonna go ahead and pass the turn over to Mark.
Going to 19,
and
that's game.
All
so
right.
It's gonna be 1-1. Unfortunately, that is time in the round, so that will be a draw for round 3.
Oh.
Excellently. Oh, that is painful to see. But very well fought out match between Mark and Frank here, both deserving of that draw. That last round was a stalemate, man. They had answers to each other's threats at all times.
Usually somebody will not get the draw, or something will make it more balanced, lean one way or the other. But literally, when one person said, hey, I got this, the other person was like, no problem, I've been waiting for it. You know what I mean? It's pretty wild. So it looks like they will not be able to get that third match in. They will take the